Here, I'll play a sound effect while you do that.
There you go. Hey, everybody, I'm live.
Thank goodness.
Oh, Clinton still got them.
Just to be on the safe side. Just to be on the safe side.
6 minutes later.
Yeah. He's a painting all of a sudden. What's going on there?
Looks like the poster for Steve Carell in the 40-year-old version. Is it going to be one of those nights?
It is going to be one of those nights.
Okay.
It certainly is. Or maybe an error. Maybe M5 says I'm in error. I don't know.
If it says Daystrom on it, you know it's quality.
Yeah, if it says Daystrom and M5, run the other way.
The M510 wasn't bad.
Well, half of it wasn't bad, but we'll talk about that.
Would help if I pick up the right show notes.
Yeah, 135.
Hi, Valencia. Valencia says, "Hey guys, good of you to join."
Hello.
Oh, and a little wavy icon. Hey.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me because I've got the StreamYards on the small monitor, so it's hard to sometimes see what's going on there.
I keep it off to the side. All right, we ready?
We are ready.
I should bring up the recording screen then. All right, hitting record in 5, 4, 3.
This is The Topic is Trek, episode 135 for Friday, April 7th, 2023. Coming up in this episode, the least surprising renewals in recent memory. Can fans make lightning strike twice? Solids versus goo. All that and more right now on The Topic is Trek. Ad Astra Scientia in Anovel Altero. Welcome to The Topic is Trek, the podcast that runs on impulse power. Join us for a journey where no show has gone before. If it has to do with Star Trek, there's a good chance we'll talk about it. Sooner or later, because on this show, the topic is Trek. Engage already. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another thrill-packed episode of The Topic is Trek. I am Clinton, one of your co-hosts. And if the name of this episode doesn't sound like your normal conversation, that's because it's a combination of the slogan for Starfleet Academy, Ex Astris Scientia, which stands for From the Stars, Knowledge. And because of a story we have coming up, the second part in Anovel Altero means in a year or two.
That kind of goes with our slogan at the beginning. Sooner or later.
Exactly. Well, beaming in to join me to co-host along with me, first of all, is, well, I guess second of all at this point, since the other one's clearly here, but beaming in to join me is Mr. Craig Stepp.
Let's leave him in the transport buffer as long as possible.
He's boimlering.
Maybe you'll see one of those little squids that Barkley saw.
What we got back didn't live long, fortunately.
Is that the hypnotist phrase?
That's kind of dark for a cat.
Whoa, we're really going dark this evening. Yeah.
We goaded him into it.
I was thinking about that transporter accident. Oh, do you want to catch race? You want to catch race?
Yeah, have another run at it.
All right.
Should we do the transporter again?
No.
No.
He'll be leaving then. That makes no sense.
Here's Johnny.
Like, who's Johnny? There was a guy named
That's
Johnny,
that's what
That's the
Johnny
song.
5 called himself.
Yeah.
No, that was
Who's
the song.
Johnny? Yeah,
Okay.
that was a song. Never mind. All right, fine. It's a fail. Try again next time.
Again, 135 and counting.
Go. There you go. There's your catchphrase.
come on, you can do it. We know you can do it. And also, clearly already beamed in earlier in this evening, pre-baked in the oven for 365 degrees, is Mr. Chuck Tomasi.
I'm the transporter chief. I just hang out here all week till the show comes on.
Wonderful.
I see.
I think you need to go back to training.
I'm the guy who replaced Chief O'Brien.
No one can replace Chief O'Brien. Come on now.
He's the best. And you're like
everything.
you're the second best, or something.
Second
like
most important person in.
that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about this evening, so why don't we get right on to it? And in order to get to it, to open up subspace chatter, of course, we have to clear things with Charlie. Charlie X. So, Charlie, we all set for subspace
jonesing.
chatter.
He's jonesing for my job at this point.
It looks like
subspace
it
chatter.
looks like he's trying to hold down that burrito from lunch.
Yes, well, that's a story of a different lunchtime. I
I might be
guess.
later, I might be showing her my old face.
Oh, no.
All right. Even though Star Trek Discovery will be ending with its upcoming 5th season in early 2024, we don't need to panic that this new golden age of Trek is over. Far from it! I love the special effects. Well, a few days ago, Paramount Plus confirmed the renewal of both Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks. Woohoo! In the message announcing the renewals, Paramount Plus president and CEO Bob Bakish said, Star Trek is one of the most iconic and beloved franchises in the world. Star Trek Strange New Worlds and Star Trek Lower Decks are both incredibly popular with fans, and we are confident that these new seasons will continue to delight audiences, end quote. For both shows, the renewal announcement comes before their latest seasons have even begun streaming.
Hmm.
Have they even begun filming?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, they actually have. Hey, we also learned that season 2 of Strange New Worlds will begin on June 15th, which is just 8 weeks after the season finale. I'm sorry, series finale of Picard. We don't have any word on exactly when season 4 of Lower Decks will premiere, just that it will be in the late summer. I'm kind of guessing September or something like that. But however, we will see at least Beckett Mariner and Bradward Boimler before then, as they journey off of the animated world onto the and Cerritos onto the live action bridge of the USS Enterprise. The crossover episode Strange New Worlds was announced last summer at Comic-Con in San Diego. Now,
Finally.
yeah, finally. So also Paramount was also a little vague about when season 2 of Star Trek Prodigy would premiere. The most that we can tell you is to look for Admiral Janeway, Dahl, Jankum, and the rest to return sometime in the winter. In the meantime, we encourage you to recommend the show to other people, and you can recommend our show as well. And we get the impression that Prodigy is on the bubble when it comes to renewal for season 3. So yeah, give it some love if you can.
Absolutely. It's one of those shows where, you just think it's for kids, and it's not the case at all.
No, they were talking about that the latest episode of the Pod Directive with Tawny Newsome and
What? I thought we were the only Star Trek podcast.
No.
Paul F. Tompkins.
Yeah, Paul F. Tompkins. Thank you.
Yeah.
Miggly Moo. That's all I can
Yeah.
remember.
Well,
yeah.
that would work. Yeah.
That'll work.
Yeah, we all. I think everybody enjoyed it.
Yeah, they had a great discussion with. I just listened to it yesterday, so it's not solid in my head yet. But one of the guys was a big fan, and his wife was not, and he was introducing it to her, and she made references that were very vague, like it was the guy with the eyebrows. And I'm thinking, Spock?
What?
No, she was talking about Worf.
Then that's what you walk away with, the guy with the eyebrows.
Yeah, that's what she came away with. It was really funny listening to these references, like how Tawny could latch onto some of these things, and but there was one point where they were talking about, you probably don't want to introduce your kids to Lower Decks.
You know,
Well, yeah, it depends on the age, I suppose. But
oh yeah, if it was a teenage, like my son was a teenager, I wouldn't care.
But Prodigy was meant just for that.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
that'd
right.
be a good place to start.
Hey, one thing going back up to your story you were mentioning just a minute ago about Bob Backus, talking about how popular and everybody loved Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks. You know what that sounds like to me? Somebody's wanting to drive it into the ground, and I hope that's not the case. I don't. They don't just
well,
ruin it.
I think we're going to be down one show in rotation, so they're definitely going to, unless something else falls soon, we're not in danger of that at the moment, because I think, we went from that year of virtually Trek every single week to we're having now there's like an 8-week stretch between the end of Picard and the beginning
Woo-hoo! We get
of
8
Strange
weeks
New Worlds.
off.
No, you know what I'm getting at though. It's like, okay, there's a hit song you like, and some music executive goes, "Oh, the kids really love that," and they play it to death on the radio. Then you get sick of the song. I don't want that to happen. That's what I'm saying.
Well, we'll talk some more about that probably after this next story, because I think that ties into that.
All right.
The idea has been kicking around for a long time, but the Starfleet Academy series is almost here.
Yay!
Almost.
I was like,
yeah,
almost.
Production on Star Trek Starfleet Academy won't begin until next year, but that's still farther than any other attempt to get this concept off the ground has ever gotten. The idea of centering a show around cadets goes as far back as the 1970s, when one of the first ideas for bringing Trek to Saturday morning TV was a cadet series. Harve Bennett also pushed for a Starfleet Academy movie several times. Change graphic, my note says here. As part of the announcement...
Hey, don't read that part.
Oh, sorry. As part of the announcement, a sort of invitation was posted online, reading in part, "For the first time in over a century, our campus will be reopened to admit individuals, a minimum of 16 Earth years old, or equivalent," put that in there, "who dream of exceeding their physical, mental, and spiritual limits, who value friendship, camaraderie, honor, and devotion to a cause greater than themselves." Now, this phrase, "for the first time in over a century," seems to indicate that the show will take place in Star Trek Discovery's 32nd century. Because, as we know from that series, the Academy was closed sometime after the burn and only recently reopened. Does that mean we'll get to see Tilly in the new series? Will Kovic return? Will there be other guest appearances from the Disco crew? Only time will tell. Oh, that wasn't a question part. Sorry.
I want to see, the opening scene is Tilly walking up to the front door and it's all dusty and leaves on the sidewalk, and taking off a board of the door that says "closed for the burn."
Close school. Yeah.
And there's some bones over on the side. Who's that? Well, that's Boothby. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Kovic is going to come in and every once in a while tell students, "There's a reason why you're here," and just leave.
Yeah, I won't tell you what it is. Bye.
I'm thinking Lower Decks could have a lot of fun with this, even if it doesn't work out.
I have a feeling that Tilly's going to be part of this, because it does sound. You're right. That description does make it sound like it's going to take place in the Discovery era,
which makes sense because they've got that all set up, and you just got there 20 episodes ago.
Well, right? Remember,
you only had 20 episodes in that entire universe when Discovery is all at this point. So,
well, in the last season, in the last season, remember Tilly left for a little while, and then she came back for a little bit. So when she was gone, she was opening the school. That's.
We're also speculating on. Well, no, I definitely think that's the case. I mean, I don't think she had like keys with her. They're going.
She's wearing them off her. Well, I started to say belt, but I don't know if they got a belt on.
They don't even have pockets. How can they have a belt?
Oh, it's like the nacelles. It's like the nacelles. They just hang beside her.
Swinging the keys around on a big ring like a prison guard.
Yeah, they just float like the nacelles beside the ship, and just kind of hang.
All right, well, let's find out some more information about, or what little information we have about it.
All right.
So, Chuck?
The premiere episode will be written by writer and executive producer, help me with the name, Gaia Violo?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay, Viola's past writing credits include episodes Blood and Treasure, In from the Cold, and Abstentia, which he also created. He? She. I think there's supposed to be an S on there. Script is a little wonky tonight, folks. All three series, whether light or dark, focus on the themes of international intrigue. Current keeper of the Trek flame, Alex Kurtzman, will serve as an executive producer and will be the Academy's co-showrunner, along with Noga Landau. Landau has written for the TV series The Magicians, co-producer of the Apple Plus series See, that's S-E-E, not the letter, and as well as developed and wrote for the CW's Nancy Drew series and its short-lived Tom Swift spinoff.
So it's kind of a an interesting combination of people here involved with this thing, and we're going to talk about another person a bit later to add something else into the mix. But I, was looking at some of these shows, trying to get a taste of what I think this is going to be like, because you've got someone who's written kind of hard and gritty stuff. Gaia Violo has written very sometimes gritty, lighthearted, more in Blood and Treasure, which was kind of an Indiana Jones-ish type of thing. But combine that with someone who's done a lot of work for the CW on shows like Nancy Drew, which are kind of teenage horror versions of 90210. Let's kind of put it that way. So it's an interesting mix here of what they might be going for when you've got people like that involved.
Yeah. Well, let's see. The log line for the series, which is a fancy industry word for one or two sentence description, is Star Trek Starfleet Academy will introduce us to a young group of cadets who come together to pursue a common dream of hope and optimism. Under the watchful and demanding eyes of their instructors, they will discover what it takes to become Starfleet officers as they navigate blossoming friendships, explosive rivalries, first loves, and new enemy that threatens both the Academy and the Federation itself. Where have we heard that part before?
Right.
Welcome to Warp Theory 201.
Boimler.
I wonder if will they have a defense against the dark matter instructor? Anyway,
I'm sorry. I love your graphic there. The log line.
The log line, yes.
Log. It's wonderful.
What rolls down stars alone? Never mind.
We do know that Lower Deck's own Beckett Mariner, Tawny Newsome, will be joining the writer's room for the series. Newsome also co-hosts the official Star Trek podcast, The Pod Directive, which we were just talking about a minute ago, and also has a solid knowledge of the Trek universe. In responding to a Twitter question, Newsome confirmed that the series will be live action, which is something we hadn't even stopped to think about. I mean, we assumed it was live action, but they didn't say that actually. It's funny. You say if it's an animated series, you will say that. But if it's a live action series, you won't.
That's the default.
Well, I think she had to say that because she is part of the animated one and wanted to let everybody know what she is. Was not the case.
Yeah, see the we'll have to explain how animation works. It's
I thought everyone was animated.
Now, one thing that I took out of this, which I found interesting, I don't know if anyone else will, but when this series does premiere, presumably in 2025, it will bring the total number of series in the current Trek reboot to 7. That's one more than all past TV iterations of Star Trek combined. It only took 8 years to accomplish that, and it took 35 years to get to 6 in the old.
Wow.
Now, granted, there's not as many episodes, and there were huge gaps between things, especially, between the original series and like Next Generation. But still, I mean, that's the kind of pace that we're under. But even to that point, we were talking about the, running it into the ground. you're
Yeah.
going to be losing 2 shows, and so far you're only replacing it with 1. And the show you're replacing both of those with is not like those other shows. And that's always a concern to me, is you don't
Yeah.
want to replace the same with the same and never get fresh blood in there and
Yeah.
mix
Right.
things up. So I think one of the benefits of doing something like Starfleet Academy is that there has never been a series like that in the Star Trek universe. We've had stories that have taken place at the Academy, sure,
Yeah.
both in the movies and on Next Generation and so forth, but this is all based there. And I think, to me, I'm very excited about it because we've talked about this series since the
Yeah.
70s,
I know.
and no one's been able to make it happen.
It went
I-
from, hey, it'd be a great idea to, hey, let's do it. And they just never did it.
That sounds like this podcast.
Exactly.
It took a long time. It's been a long road.
No,
No.
we
The,
don't have, we
No,
don't have the
I'm
money to pay for
cautiously
that.
optimistic on this because I feel the same as when Deep Space Nine was first introduced. A lot of the adventure from Star Trek came from the ship going to places, and now we're in a static location. So, what is going to be the drama? What is going to be the conflict? What's going to be the storyline for Starfleet Academy? The action obviously has to come to them, or the situations have to revolve around them.
I can tell you what it's going to be: blossoming friendships, explosive rivalries, and first loves, and an enemy that threatens the Academy and the Federation itself.
Will you stop reading the log line?
Hey, one thing
I'm sold.
one thing you didn't have on your list, rightly so, because it's not technically announced yet, was the Section 31. So
Right. Well,
that's still in the cards.
that's still in the interesting story that our friend of the show, Larry Nemechek, was talking about was in his last live Tuesday live show on YouTube, was the concept of the Star Trek runway. So you have the shows waiting to take off.
Okay.
So stacked up, waiting to take off after Discovery, were Starfleet Academy and Section 31, because those shows had been part of the overall production deal when Kurtzman got the long-term commitment to be doing this after the first year or so. Well, fans came along and said, we want more Pike.
Oh, yeah.
It bumped Section 31 off the runway. And that ties directly into the story that Chuck is going to be talking about now.
If you've been going on Twitter lately, you might have been wondering when this new series, Star Trek Legacy, is going to premiere. Well, no one can say, because the series it's not been greenlit by anyone. Picard Season 3 showrunner Terry Matalas has pitched the idea of a series that would pick up where Picard leaves off, with a combination of new and legacy cast members. At GalaxyCon, he confirmed that no work is currently happening for the concept, but again reiterated how Season 3 sets up another show. Look, I love this time period in Star Trek, the 25th century. I always view it as a present day in Star Trek for me. It's where we all left off. And the way we leave this season is a passing of the torch from the last generation to the next. I would certainly love the spinoff to happen. We certainly leave it so that you can do that. Of course, it's well known that fan demand for more adventures with Captain Pike, Mr. Spock, and Number One led to the fast tracking of the series Strange New Worlds. But can fans do it again? And would it delay, yet again, development on the Section 31 series? We're not sure how this is going to shake out, but stand by. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, those of anyone that's watching the stream live or watches it afterwards, I had up on the screen some graphics that are different people's kind of fan versions of what the logo for Star Trek Legacy would be. And this was just in a quick search of scrolling through maybe 3 pages, and I've got three different looking logos, as well as one that features LeVar Burton and his indicating that he's very supportive of this concept of Star Trek Legacy. So I'm just wondering, what's happening at Secret Hideout and at CBS Media, going, I don't know what we should be doing here, because does anybody want to call Michelle and tell her that she's been bumped again? I don't want to be the one to make
Not
that
an
call.
Oscar winner. No, not an Oscar winner.
So I'm not sure how this is going to land. And it's a vague concept to begin with. I mean, naturally, Terry's in favor of it because this is something he's been working on. But there are also all the plans that are in place for shows that are upcoming. I mean, there's probably shows that we're not aware of that is so early in development that we don't.
Like the Star Trek Tribbles show.
Star Trek Babies.
That's not supposed. Okay, well, we
Eric's
know about them now.
Eric's Comedy Club.
Yeah, Eric's lent a hand or two or three. Yes. So I just it's weird, and it's one of these things where the showrunner is really encouraging people to do this, and I'm concerned, and Terry has said himself that he's not an employee, so you've got somebody outside lobbying for this thing, and fans are behind it, but it feels odd to me in some ways that you want to have it really organic. I don't know if you necessarily want to have the person in charge say you should do, constantly be, putting out things about this. It's just my feeling about it. I mean, I would love to see the series. Don't get me wrong, I would love to see the series, but I also feel like there's other things out there that are different and new, like we're talking about the Academy in Section 31, that I'd also like to see.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Chuck. Do you have something you want to say?
There is a lot. There are so many open ends that they've left breadcrumbs throughout the years that you could hook into. Just rich universe that you could tap in almost anywhere and come up with oil. I guess oil isn't a good thing anymore, is it?
Yeah.
Vegetable oil.
There we go.
I still drive on it, so I think it's good. So I think seeing his Taylor Metallis's track record, not only the other shows that he's done in the past, but the way that Star Trek or Picard season 3 turned out, I'm down for whatever he's got in mind, and I'm sure it'll be good. But yeah, I kind of want another set of characters, and kind of push that envelope a little bit and get back to the exploration and storytelling about,
Strange New World
situations, or a reflection on our world kind of thing, like Star Trek was. Now there's so much introspective stuff.
I think you could still do that with. I think you could still do that with the Starfleet Academy.
Yeah. And not just Academy, but I'm thinking of other stuff too. Or the Legacy, referring to the Legacy Star Trek Legacy one. But if they can get back to kind of doing that kind of storytelling and come up with stories that make you think a little bit, go, oh, okay, I want that.
It's also kind of interesting because, I mean, that concept of Star Trek Legacy, Terry himself did a Twitter poll, which is clearly not scientific, but a question about, who is the best captain, and that's on.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Right. So he had down Picard, Riker, Shaw, and Vadic.
I abstained, by the way.
And Shaw is running away with it. Okay, so
wait a minute.
Last time I saw, anyway.
All right, so that may be true, but I think I like him, but we barely seen him, and a lot of the show he's been either in his quarters or off the bridge somewhere,
sick bay,
injured. He's been beat up, so it's like, I don't know. I can't really make a determination.
I mean, he's the de facto engineer, so he's doing O'Brien's role, for him, like being the one that gets beat up all the time.
Oh, I did. Yeah, that's right. But I did
According
kind
to
of. I
Todd
mean,
Stashwick, hashtag Shaw was right.
that show was right. I mean, I like him and stuff, but it's like I want to see him actually do some captaining. I've seen him unplug some wires and get beat up a lot.
He's these last couple episodes have you know changed his light.
Oh,
I mean, he came across as a real jerk, but then you find out why
yeah.
he's got those feelings. And
And
you
he
know,
can fall out of a turbo lift like nobody's business. Let me tell you right now.
Right.
episode 8, we're seeing some good stuff in my opinion.
Well, I do like how he doesn't mind calling BS on people, as we've seen with Picard and Riker and everybody. You know, he's like, rather than sidestepping an issue or dancing around the bush, so to speak.
With
he-
a touch of sense of humor. I think
yeah.
that's Todd the actor
Oh,
putting something
the,
special into that character.
that first dinner scene, man. That dinner
Mm.
scene, or that where he was eating dinner and they weren't.
Yep.
Not so much.
So
But yeah.
but see, that's part of the question is like, if your interest is in, if people's interest is in, Captain Shaw, and you find out, okay, we're going to do it as a Star Trek Legacy, and somehow Riker is the lead, you're going to upset. I feel like with Strange New Worlds, it was much clearer.
Mhm.
If you're going to have Pike, the setup is it's going to be in the Enterprise.
You kind of know what's going to happen. We
you
kind
know,
of knew the way it was going to be set up.
Right.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about what's the mix, who's in, who's out,
Mhm.
type of thing. This is just like that was a given
Yeah.
of what
Yeah.
you were going to get.
Well, that was part of the whole season 3, and we can get to this when we get to the episode recaps, is having Picard and Riker and Shaw all in that same environment made for conflict, confusion, contention, other words that start with the letter C.
Clarity. Wait, no, that's the wrong. No, that's wrong.
Cut,
That's wrong.
clarity,
Convolution.
That's a diamond ring now. So I think that was part of the mix. It would have been too straightforward to go, hey, Will, take your old ship. I'll step back. And, it made for more of who's really in control here, if anybody.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will add this to the pile. I do think I agree with Terry Metalis when he said that this was his golden trick, was this time frame. I mean, I like TOS for lots of reasons. I also love the TNG era because we've had a lot of stuff in there, but there's a lot of material still to mine from that. All the way. You've seen everything between TNG all the way to DS9, that same time frame. There's a lot in there, and it made a good time frame. I'd like to see something in that time frame again.
And it's got the advantage that it's not another
Origin.
show that is trying to fit into the leading up to.
Mm-hmm.
If you did that series, it's like your other shows that are currently on in that roughly the time era, with Lower Decks and Prodigy. They're both post Nemesis type of area, going out from there. I mean, they all need to coordinate because they are kind of in each other's backyards,
Mm-hmm.
as far as what's happening at that point in the timeline. They're slightly different years, but not that different than each other. So you'd have to really work that pretty tightly to make it work. But it is going forward. It is creating new things rather than just looking backwards.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But I think I get the idea about the Star Trek Legacy, because if they do plan it in that time frame, then you got like Voyager DS9 era stuff. You got the tail end of TNG, and you can also go out in the universe. There's a lot of stories to tell. So that's why I'm kind of down. At least that's the impression I'm getting.
Maybe we'll get all three. Maybe we'll get
Yeah.
Legacy, Section 31, and Starfleet Academy at some point. Who knows? We'll find out maybe next First Contact Day. I don't know, because we got nothing on First Contact Day this year.
I know, what a disappointment. I was like, well, I had fun posting pictures and hashtags, but
so
Less competition.
the next really shot that we have is the the place where they make the major announcements is Star Trek Day in September. So
Yeah.
that's a long way to go before we have any kind of major. Exactly, Eric's. But let's move on. We have no news.
By the
this
way,
week.
Eric's was looking at the airline tickets. That's why he was.
Oh my.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we're going to not talk about Vulcan, Alberta, Canada this week because not really much news happening there, and we're definitely got a lot on our plate. However, there's only 23 additional stories.
Slow week.
It's a slow week because I took out all the duplicates of stories about the renewals, about duplicate reviews of Star Trek Picard. There were probably like 3 times as many stories, but they're just the same thing with a different header on it. So these are 23 hopefully unique stories. We've got stuff from Picard, Strange New Worlds, the Next Generation, all the I believe all 4 of the Star Trek movies are out as a 4K.
Oh yeah, that they did announce that yesterday.
Yep. So well, that had already been news a couple of days before then. So somebody stole their thunder. You can get yourself a Borg Cube Bluetooth speaker. We've got Star Trek officially names the best ship in the Federation's fleet. That's a clickbait headline.
So was the best villains, which I had to click through just to look at the list.
Yeah. But there's plenty in there to look at. Just go to the show notes for episode 135 over at thetopicstrek.com. All right, it's time to come to my favorite part of the show, which is to say goodbye, Charlie.
Unable to comply. Internal scanner relays have been damaged.
Thought his voice was changing for a minute.
I was worried he was going to stick around because we couldn't get him to go away.
The sensors had to find him first.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And it's time to head out on our main mission with an appropriate sound effect.
Program initiated. Enter when ready.
No.
That's appropriate.
Yeah, there you go.
Mato's just all over the place this episode. Well, this time around, we're going to be talking about the 2 most recent episodes of Star Trek Picard, and those are Dominion and Surrender. And of course, there will be spoilers. So whether or not we're going to run the spoiler alert, I don't know, but there will be spoilers coming up.
Sure, why not?
Spoiler alert.
There we go.
All right.
Dominion and Surrender. Those would be good band names just by themselves.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Chuck just read this. Craig, why don't you give us the details on Dominion?
All right. So, of course, we're talking about Star Trek Picard, season 3, episode 7. The episode title, as you just said, Dominion, written by Jane Maggs. In addition to serving as co-executive producer and writer of Picard, Jane Maggs has written for shows such as The Man Who Fell to Earth, and with an E, and Little Dog. This is Mag's 5th script for Picard. And directing is Deborah Kempmere, still keeping a hand in writing and producing small independent films. Deborah Kempmere has also recently focused on directing for small screen, which turns helming episodes of Clarice, Tales of the Walking Dead, FBI International, and FBI International. How's that work? Anyway, and the Gilded Age. Kempmere has directed 3 episodes of Star Trek, including 1 episode of Discovery, and both this and the next episode of Picard Surrender, which we'll talk about in a minute. So Dominion's short synopsis is: crippled, cornered, and out of options, Picard stages a gambit to trap Vadic and reveal her true motive. A gamble that puts the Titan in the crosshairs and forces Picard and Beverly to question every mortal code they've ever held.
So let's talk, before we talk about those main plot points, what did you think of the first scene between Tuvok and Seven?
More music. We heard the Voyager theme.
Yeah, there was a couple of cues of Voyager theme in there.
It was good. I liked it because it went back and forth. You weren't sure, and then you were, and then you weren't. And
actually, that's what I thought. She was like, okay, I'm good. and then wait, no, yes, no, no,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
You know,
that's we were along for the ride on that one.
yeah.
Right. Somebody likened it, and I had the same thought in my head, so probably other people did as well, because when she first kind of believes it is Tuvok after she's, given him a couple of, verbal tests about things, then she nods, everything's okay. And that's when you hear the Voyager theme start up.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Like,
she has to,
yay!
then she has to follow-up question, and it all falls apart. And I feel like if there was a live orchestra, the orchestra would be going, "Oh, look, it's Tuvok, da, da, da," and they're all
Yeah,
singing. No, nix it. Wah, 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 wah.
that's it.
Exactly.
Exactly, Eric's.
He plays the tuba
He
now.
plays the tuba. Wow, he's multi-talented.
I did like it. I mean, it was a nice surprise because even remember on the Ready Room the week before, Will Wheaton even made a point, says, I can't even tell you who it is. It has silhouette of him on the set. And so what's really messed up is I happened to pull up YouTube that morning and there's a thumbnail with Tim Russ on it. I went, dang it, now I already know. I didn't even have to look at anything. Just stare in my face. But it didn't matter. It was still a good
Stay away from the internet. Stay clear of the
I
internet.
can't. I work there.
He lives there.
Yeah. I can't.
So we keep mentioning Dwight Schultz, aka Reg Barkley. You know how
Mhm.
old that man is now?
How
30
old
He's
is
like
he?
38.
75.
He's 75.
He's 75.
So he's a young one in the bunch.
Yeah, I was watching. Was it Enterprise? A few nights ago when Inside Man, the episode Inside Man, where they were doing the relay and the Ferengi intercepted his
Mhm.
holographic image that they were sending to Voyager to help bring him back, et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera. They also covered it on the latest episode of the Delta Flyers with Garrett Wang and Robbie McNeil. And I looked it up and went, how old is this guy? Because I was looking through his IMDb page going, he's been around a long time.
Yeah.
And it's like, dang.
Well, he's been around 75 years.
As of November, I think it was. Might have been December.
Yeah. It's funny you bring it up because just the other day, actually last night, as a matter of fact, because of Star Trek Day, I threw on the Pluto channel, more Star Trek, and they had
Mhm.
Voyager, and they were playing the episode Endgame, and where they made all the characters look older. And of
Mhm.
course, they made him look a little older. And I was like, well, he kind of looks like he does today. Just
I
a little
believe they
bit.
made him look older, and they also like hiked up his pants
Yeah.
to like his
Yeah.
chest.
Just, those aren't regulation. Yeah. They
It's my
did.
old people pants, and I'm wearing them.
Actually, Tom
Mhm.
Paris looked a little too unnaturally old, but anyway. And of course, the doctor looked great. Joe, excuse me.
Okay, we've got the opening scene established with
Yes.
Tuvok. It's going to take a while, people.
So we
I know.
have a couple of major things going on in this
Mhm.
episode. I mean, we're dealing with data lore because now
Yeah,
they have brought him back onto the Titan.
we're dealing with Picard and Crusher weighing their moral codes.
Right, because Beverly floats the idea that she might be able to come up with some type of weapon that's biological in nature. And she's concerned because it would basically be a genocide to
Yep.
be using it. And she likens it to the morphogenic virus used during the Dominion War.
Mhm.
And she says, well, I just don't know if I can bring myself to that point to do that. Picard at that point kind of brushes it off, saying, well, if you get there, we'll talk about it then.
Give it to me.
I
Yes.
thought it was a little odd
I'll
that
use it.
they discovered that Picard's DNA had been stolen, and Beverly asked a question about
Well, his body had
relative
been stolen.
DNA, and I went, "You're a doctor. It's the 24th century. You should know all about relatives and DNA and mitochondrial DNA."
I'm
Like,
still trying to
what?
figure it out.
Did you just have like a brain lapse or something? Because that's fundamental to what you do. I thought that was really out of place.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit. Yeah.
Well, we have off and on cases of these bizarre leaps of logic in this series. So we'll
Yeah.
chalk that up.
It would be like Jordy walking into engineering going, dilithium, what's that?
I thought you were going to say leaps of logic in this world that we live in, but
No, that's a different story altogether. We won't get into that.
No.
And Spock comes in and says, let me take a guess at that. I was really put off by that. I thought you've got Data and Lore, and then look at the mind map, and of course it's red and blue.
Yes.
Like, oh, what a trope. Please, can we move on from the red is bad and blue is good? And
wait a minute, they didn't tell you which one Lore was.
Yes, you didn't have to.
Well, it's because you're
whenever the
indoctrinated
robot's eyes go from blue to red, you're in trouble. Okay, every robot movie that's been around.
No, they didn't tell you which one was which. You assumed.
But he assumed correctly according to the next episode. But that's
yeah, you didn't have to guess very hard. I'm not even talking political battleground here. I'm talking pure sci-fi trope.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it might have to do with how things scan. You could use yellow, right, for one of the colors, but you want to have something
yellow.
But you want to have something that really highly contrasts in color.
Green. So, I don't care. Make something up.
But I think that's why one of the reasons they fall back to that is because it translates well.
Have a little L and a D or something.
Well, wait a minute. They use those colors because people associate it with good and bad, just like you did. So that's why they did it.
Okay. I trust my Bluetooth headset, but I don't trust my earbuds when they're running low on battery anymore.
You trust your Bluetooth headset, but your red camera, you can't trust it. So that's how that goes.
I thought it was just a little too obvious there. I did like Brent Spiner's acting when he switches between the two personas, and he does this in both this episode and the next one really well.
Oh, he's doing that great.
Poor Lal is just like.
Well, they mentioned
Lal. They mentioned her in
Did they not?
The museum.
Not again. Never again.
Well, yeah, they did in Surrender. He mentioned it at the end. No, wait.
No, I don't think
he said Data.
He said before,
and all the other things that and the rest are here in Data's brain. Gilligan's
Island. They mentioned Lal that first time when they found Data, and that was it.
Right, because he said Dr. Sung said he was going to put that in there, and then we get this episode. They talk about the partitions, and there are 4 partitions, and he names them out, and they're nothing. So
wait a minute, how weird would that be if they put Data's daughter in his head now?
Oh, now?
Wouldn't that be weird? No, I mean, if she was supposed to be in there,
it's just a composite. Yeah,
I mean, it was Data's daughter, and then all of a sudden they go, "Oh, let's put them all together. Oh, let's put Lal in there too." You know,
it's basically all of Dr. Sung's floppy disks that he had laying in a drawer.
It's a Data soup.
Yeah.
Here's a copy of Load Runner I put in there.
So why did you do that? I did it for the lulz. Yes. Okay.
There's the sad trombone again.
Oh,
Eric's just taking a rest at this point.
Okay, where are we on this? Vadic.
Right. So now Vadic is having another conversation with
the squiggly face. Yeah,
squiggly face. And which we still don't know. And I was right. It's not a changeling because of, this other stuff that's been going on, that she's definitely afraid of this character because it can take changelings and just completely obliterate them.
You are running out of time, and I want a salami sandwich now.
Exactly.
They kind of look like one a little bit.
And even though she's going to be torturing Riker and Deanna Troi, we don't see them at all in this episode, which is, I think, weird as well, because you had the setup, the cliffhanger, the last episode, the last thing you saw the last episode, and then we don't see them at all.
Well, Terry Metalis did say the reason that was the case was because when they were cutting back and forth, they were going between 2 different ships, and it didn't quite work right, so they had to kind of separate them a little bit. So that's why they were supposed to be in that episode, but they moved them.
And yet they did it completely in the next episode. So I don't know. I also have feelings I hate to say this, but I'm still having these feelings of we have a 7 or 8 episode story and we are stretching now.
In
Yeah.
places. Yeah. It's not as obvious as it was last season with holy cow.
Or even the last couple episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Right.
this one.
But yeah, they could have been 40-minute episodes.
Mhm.
The we also find out that Jack is not just, seeing things and can pull matrix moves whenever he needs to,
You can make
but
other
he
people
can
do the
also
same.
impart them on other people. So,
Mhm.
they get into a bit of a pickle and Sydney's trapped and he sort of remote controls Sydney in a fight sequence, which I thought that was an interesting development.
Very well coordinated, I will say. As far as the
Yes.
choreographic
Choreography.
Uh,
Now I can't take
choreography.
it.
choreography. There we
The
go.
moving around part.
Join us
body
for our other
movement.
podcast where it gets even funnier.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job with making that because I was like, he's actually controlling her,
Yeah.
when they were doing the same thing.
And I like the fact that after it was all over, Sydney's first reaction after that is weird is to pull the phaser on him. It's like, what
she didn't
the
know
heck was that?
Yeah, that was unnatural, and she didn't know what to think of it. I mean,
Right? No, that's what I mean.
you got,
I think there
got a
was,
bunch of changelings walking around. What else? Who knows what else is going on?
right. So it's very now. I'm really intrigued by whatever this thing is because you're bordering on these really supernatural abilities, which is kind of out of Star Trek's normal mode of operation to
Yep.
just have somebody be able to like instantly get into anybody's mind and control all their movements. Like, it's,
Deanna Troy.
yeah, but I mean, that's kind of like, I can sense certain things, but
well,
even
This goes
even
beyond a Vulcan mind meld.
right. Even when Spock was doing those mind melds, it was like a lot of prep, and he could get the person to do very simple things like open a communicator.
well,
This is like instantly I can take over your mind and use you like a puppet to mimic everything that I'm doing in a fight sequence.
well, think of this too. Deanna's powers have changed, or we can call them abilities or whatever. Has changed a little bit. She was actually modifying Riker's mind because of the grief and everything.
That's the next episode.
Right. So
I know, I understand that, but I'm just saying,
right.
it's not out of the realm.
Yeah, but I mean, especially if he's never done this before, right? Because it took him by surprise as well.
Or what? I'm trying to remember the name of the episode. Also involved Deanna Troy, where the family that was taking over, they were playing like a party trick. Remember on the Enterprise, and they were pulling people's memories out that they hadn't had in a long time. Remember that? And there was a rape scene with Deanna. Remember that?
She also was what was she reaching out to Shinzon? No, the in Nemesis, she was doing some of this as well.
But
that was different. That wasn't
well. One of the reasons it's different with Deanna is that she knows she's a Beta Z, and she's known she's a Beta Z since she was a little kid, and she's had lots of practice doing what she's doing. And so, yeah, if her abilities grow over time in little steps forward, sure. But this is Jack not knowing he can do any of this stuff to suddenly just do what I do.
Flip the switch, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he said he's been feeling like this for a long time, but and I guess it's finally come to a point.
Right. So that's why I'm really interested to find out what this thing is, because
they're
putting a lot of pressure on what this thing is.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about it in the next episode.
Vadic seems to know, but first she has to reveal the story, and this scene took a little while, in my opinion, to say how we got this new version of changelings.
To me, though,
a lab experiment.
Yeah, but that to me was the gist of a lot of stuff, and I felt like that was the important thing to get to, because this is a consequence of war that we're talking about here, and how you paint Section 31, if you want to separate that from Starfleet and the Federation. So at least Section 31 wants to weaponize the changelings, use them as sleeper agents to go in and do whatever it is they want them to do. So that really was a horrific thing. Of course, it had ties into other atrocities of war in our wars.
Mhm.
So that's where you draw the parallel there. And I felt like that was the interesting part of this episode. I'm
Yes.
glad they took their time with that part. What I didn't understand, though, was she was very calm when she got trapped. And yes, she gets free, but she could not have known that Lore was going to drop all the force fields. So did she have some other end game in mind for getting out of there? Because she was cool as a cucumber.
Yeah,
while
it was
she
like it was like she
trapped.
had a plan all along, and I'm not. Yeah, you're right. And I was like, I don't get where she thought she had a plan because she hadn't been in contact with Laura at all. I don't think,
Right. And everyone's
unless,
behind force fields.
well, I was gonna say unless, because of the whole conspiracy, maybe she had some insight on with Laura. I don't know. On Daystrom, I guess they weren't really talking. I don't know. I mean, I was just stretching with that one.
We
Yeah,
get
so
another children's song out of it too. Three Blind Mice.
we do. We do indeed. We don't
Yeah.
get I didn't notice, did the scientists smoke? Because I keep thinking, where did she get the habit of smoking?
I wondered that too, because the opening scene in the next episode is her lighting up. Going,
Right.
why? It would have to be the scientist, because
Excuse me, there's no smoking on the bridge.
a
Excuse me.
changeling would have no use for a cigarette. It's not like an addiction. It was just something that
She inhales and her clay inside is gray. It's nasty.
So that's why I was wondering. I didn't go back and take another look to see, well, is the researcher smoking? And she's just picked up that habit from
Yeah, I don't remember that part.
observation.
I did agree. I thought that was a nice callback, and you understand where she's coming from. I think they filled that part out very well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But in true Star Trek form, she ends up taking over the ship.
Yep.
With a small band of, assistants. 'Cause-
Well, and just a little. I mean, the crew figures out that they can track these changelings because they have Philomium 847, and they just discovered a little too late.
yeah. Well, if they discovered it earlier, I'm not sure they could have done much, because they seem to really not be very effective in the next episode in doing anything. But
They didn't use it at all.
No, they didn't. There were a couple things like that, like, okay, and that led to nothing.
Yeah.
again, that's kind of one of those, let's stretch it a little bit here and then a little bit there. All right. Do we have any other thoughts about
Well,
things that happened in this episode?
At the end, I mean, the changelings took the bridge, and then Vadic announces, "Hey, Jack, I think it's time you tell everybody who you are. You should really know what you are."
We're gonna tell you in 2 episodes.
Right, because we're not telling you the entire next episode, even though we set it up that way.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like the show should end with, "And don't forget to subscribe to Paramount Plus."
Yeah, that's right.
Like and
Welcome to
subscribe.
entertainment.
Like and subscribe at the link
Yeah,
below.
like and subscribe.
Be
That's
sure to
right.
leave a comment.
Yeah.
We strive for 5s. Oh wait, that's a totally different.
All right. Well, let's
Uber, I think.
let's rate this one,
Uber,
shall we?
that's Clinton.
Oh, yeah.
Linda,
Right.
what?
Yeah.
What's our rating system for this one? What
Uh,
What did we have?
I think it should.
Cigarettes?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think it should be smoking changelings. I guess.
Okay. All right. All right.
Tuvok?
On a
Two
scale of 1 to 10, smoking changelings, which you got to say very carefully to make sure it's understood. I'll start.
Okay.
I'm thinking I'm going to give this one. I'm going to give it an 8 because I really didn't like certain parts of it because we're falling into everybody's stupid until they're smart. But I did like the reveal of a lot of what was motivating
Right.
Vadic. I really like this fact that even to the point where Picard and Crusher, and I believe them, they were completely unaware that although the Federation had come up with the solution, they voted to not give it to the changelings, and it was Odo who brought it to them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
right.
but the victor gets to write the history, and I've got a feeling that's what the party line is on how it happened. Oh, well, yeah, we came up with that, but we also gave them the cure. So I like that whole segment in there. All right, let's go to Chuck next.
I'm gonna go with a 7.5, just a little bit lower. I thought that scene, the revealing scene, was a little long. I also thought there were a couple of weird things like Beverly asking about DNA or Geordi's sort of fatalistic attitude at the beginning. He's like, "You're gonna have to admit it, Jean-Luc.
No, I
We're
was wondering
alone
about
now."
I wondered
We're
about that
It's like,
too. I was
"Whoa,
like,
holy give up attitude,
yeah,
buddy."
let's just go
Uh,
home.
Yeah. So it just I liked it in general. Again, beautiful music throughout, very cinematic. So I'm keeping it above there. I just thought there were a couple of dings in the armor that went, "Hmm, not not the finest hour, but it was a good hour."
Mhm. I liked, well, I'm sorry. Is it my turn now? So I'll give it an 8. I liked it for the same reasons that you mentioned, Clinton, the backstory, and all that stuff. But the one thing that we didn't touch on was Geordie's little monologue to Lore trying to get him to turn. And I thought that was touching because they had a good friendship, at least especially from his side, with Data. So he was appealing to him and stuff to save his daughter, and I like that a lot. So I'm gonna give it an 8.
Yeah,
8
and
smoking. Yeah,
Laura's just brush it off.
yeah. Why are you telling me this? Yeah,
You keep talking and talking and saying nothing.
Laura, you jerk, throwing my emotions back at me.
All right. Well, let's immediately follow up with the next episode. Chuck, tell us about it.
Season 3, episode 8 is called Surrender, or as I told Clinton earlier, I see a red door and I want to paint it,
Yeah.
Jack. All right, they brought back the red door. I've been singing that song in my head for like the last 4 episodes since they first started showing that red door.
That could have been a title of this show.
I said that, but apparently I haven't been promoted to show titles yet. I'm still at 10 episodes.
That's right.
I leave that to the pros. Written by Matt Okamura. He served as a staff writer on the miniseries Blood and Treasure, been the story editor on the series Leverage Redemption, and has been a writer for Smallville. Okamura's roles on Picard have included executive story producer, story editor, and writer on 15 of the series. This was directed by Deborah Kampmeyer again, and we won't reread everything Craig told you before. The plot synopsis is that Vadic forces Picard to make an impossible choice: deliver what he can never give, or watch his crew perish. It's actually Shaw's crew, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's right.
This is when I picked up from like official stuff. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
Well, it's not Picard who's being forced to make the choice, and it's not his crew, but I'll allow it. That's what
Only
they said.
salvation lies in the mind of an old friend and old
Yeah.
foe.
By the way, that reminds me of Netflix had I'm trying to remember which Star Trek movie it was. It was one of the Next Gen movies. The description said a feel good romp, blah 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 blah. I'm like, what? A feel good romp? I think it sounds like a road trip movie.
It's just a wacky adventure.
Yeah, that's right.
It's an episode of Full House.
Yeah.
All right,
gentlemen. So we
this-
start out, as we mentioned before, Vadic
What are we-
lights up.
What are we rating this one? I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Let's
let's
go
just
there.
go cut to the chase. There we go. Well, to me, this is the episode that I really feel like between this and the last episode was one episode that they could have mushed these together, because I'm going to talk about a couple of things that I thought were very weird in here that felt like stretching. You have Vadic, who's taken over the ship, who wants to find Jack. That's clearly why she's here, right?
If she says his name one more time,
But
It's a drinking game.
after like 10 minutes of her on the bridge and calling out to Jack, blah blah blah, then she says, and order out a team to search for Jack.
Yeah, this is what, 2 days later?
Well, it's like, wasn't that the mission? Wasn't that what you should be doing all the time?
that's why you're here on
I
the
thought
ship.
they were.
Yeah.
But yeah, that line was a little out there. I did like the way that the writers and ultimately the actors pushed Vatic even further to the edge. She's conducting the screams over the intercom like a musical conductor. Like, wow, that is scary wacky there.
Right, because this is again the case where it doesn't matter if you can track these creatures. Basically, she has shut off all the controls on the ship, except for on the bridge. She's closing bulkhead doors. She's doing everything to just isolate the crew and
just how
eliminate
does
them.
this happen? Don't you need like command functions? And we saw Shaw transfer them to Riker and Riker back to Shaw. How does Vatic walk onto the bridge
Maybe they
and
left him on a
lock
table.
everything out?
She goes up to a console and she taps into all the Starfleet records.
They really need two-factor authentication on this ship.
She clicked the override button.
No, all she had to do was turn on, do you want help hints? And she put that on, and everything she scrolled over, it just did what it did.
I mean, Clippy shows up.
mode.
I see you're trying to get command codes.
No, it's Badgie that shows up, actually.
Badgie.
Badgie
Right.
help.
I see you're trying to get command codes. How can I help?
But yet there's a secret codex that we know of, because Jack thinks he can retake the ship. He's like, hey, I can help from down here. And he hasn't told everybody all this about his remote capabilities yet.
Well, and he's distraught about it too. He's trying to.
Yeah, he's trying to help. So he projects himself, I guess is what we call it, into one of the bridge captives, the hostages, and they start punching in some codes without even looking at the screen, which I thought was amazing.
And of course, this code has to be extremely long compared to other codes, which are just like press a button.
Picard at 47 Alpha Tango.
Yeah, you can apparently take over the ship quite easily, but taking it back is a multi-step process. Now click advanced, go to the configuration tab in there.
No, don't click on. Oh, you got to start over now.
And just before he hits confirm or enter or whatever, Vatic catches him.
Yeah.
Not happy.
No, and she's given that firm ultimatum, which says she means business and won't stretch out the episode. She's given Jack 10 minutes.
10 minutes to turn himself in, also
'cause-
start killing people.
Because you could turn yourself in immediately, but I'm going to give you 10 minutes to turn yourself in. Why?
It's a long walk, to the turbo lift to come on.
Well, we needed 10 minutes so we could go back to Riker and Troy so they could discuss how much they hate their house.
Yes. Well, I mean, we got an answer to a question which we'd asked because it didn't make any sense with what we saw on the early season of Picard on Nepenthe, where they seemed to be quite happy. They would talk about their son who had died, and they would be sad, but then they would move on. But apparently, we're to believe that was all just a charade. That Deanna was actually
deeper than that. Yeah,
Deanna was actually trying to carry the weight of everybody's grief and also feeling everybody's grief in the first place. And Riker feels like she deadened his mind to the whole feeling of loss, and he couldn't grieve. And she felt like she was taking his memories of that is away from him.
Yeah.
And she said, I was just trying to help you carry that weight. And then she comes to realize, you can't just skip to the end of.
He needed to work through it.
She said she forgot, like, one of the counselor's rules is you can't skip to the end of.
I like that line. That was
healing. You can't skip to the end of healing. That's what it was.
Yeah. Well, didn't Riker say earlier that they moved to that planet some properties that helped his son live a little longer.
Yes.
So maybe I got the feeling that they felt like they didn't want to leave because sorry, get choked up. They didn't want to leave because he was the reason that they were there.
They should have gone to the planet with the Baku or Sona or whichever one it was with the magic planet rings that make you feel better and get younger.
Yeah, I'm surprised they don't have like a hotel system there.
Yeah,
now.
no visitors allowed type of situation there.
Yeah.
But just as they resolve or reconcile that, in walks one of the changeling bird people and is about to shoot them. But no, it's Worf to the rescue!
Huggable Worf gets another
Klingon
hug.
theme. I love that. Yes. That moment was great. Didn't expect it. Wonderfully played.
I'm surprised Riker or Deanna didn't see him because the walls had holes all in it. The front was wide open. I was like,
right, it was basically like honeycomb.
When you see Worf riding in behind the guy to stab him, I don't know.
So after getting a hug from pretty much everybody, but at this point,
and making
even Riker,
comment.
Right, when we've both got Will Riker and Deanna Troi hugging him, he says, "Personal space is a right."
Yeah,
that's pretty.
Okay,
funny.
Sorry about that.
Another great Worf line.
I've been hugged 20 times in this series,
and then we get awkward. We get awkward for Riker then at that point because then Worf is all gushy to Deanna, his former love interest.
Oh my God!
All sorts of things.
I know. I thought that was awkward too. I was like, "Oh, uh-oh."
Eesh. My collar. I got to adjust my collar.
Is it getting hot in here?
Then we get to the whole plan of what are we going to do with Data and Lore wrestling inside of this one thing? Let's take down the partition and have a slugfest. See who wins.
Well,
and once again, now we're down to only there are two partitions. We've gone from Lal being left out to now like Sung and B4 are being left out, and it's just Data and Lore in there.
Well, B4, that was kind of an easy take.
Well, they did say it was B4's memories. B4
he says that afterwards, but they show all those dots and all the stuff going on. He says, this is the battle going on inside his head. So that's he's painted it as taking another partition between Data and Lore.
Mm-hmm.
So we should have had some green and yellow dots on that map as well.
Right. Those are partitions that he didn't,
I think the other two were more memories and experiences rather than, an active.
Right. Because
that's why
we didn't see much of. Yeah. We didn't see much of B4 in the movie, but they make reference to the fact that, they tried and it just didn't.
Hey, if I'm not mistaken, in the comics, I know this is not 100% canon, but I was expecting this a little bit, but I guess not. B4 actually became Data, he became Data and was in Starfleet again and actually ended up being a captain. But that, I guess that never came to pass.
That's the trouble when you take those gambles in the novels and the comic books.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. I was just saying in the comics, that's the way it worked out. But here is obviously not. So, because they didn't have no problem taking him apart. Poor B4. He never had a chance.
So Worf and Riker and Deanna get aboard the Titan, and they discover
Wait,
what did I skip something? Yes.
Question here. So, if you were on the bad guy's ship, okay, and you don't know the status of what's going on board the Titan, would your first thing be to just go Riker to Titan?
Yeah.
Which is the very first thing he does.
Yeah. You think they'd be on the bridge going, what? Oh, answer that.
What? And then after that, when Data lifts the
comms,
so everything's back online again.
Turn the lights on.
Sydney and Riker are having a conversation back and forth, and there are people on the bridge, including Vadic, who, maybe outside of the thing that's going on.
Yeah, I thought the whole comms situation was a little wonky on that one too.
It just seemed weird that apparently you can have the conversations and no one will intercept them.
There was no protocol.
There's no dialogue.
It was a situation that clearly demanded protocol, and there was none.
Yeah.
In addition to, I got one more, and then I'm going to let you go, Craig, because
Okay.
it'll slip out of my head.
Yeah, go ahead.
The other thing is, apparently you can roam all over the ship, even though there's people looking for you. Because you've got a party of 4 that go roaming around the ship to get over to where Data and Geordi and,
we cleared them to land, and Vatic didn't know that anyone was coming in the shuttle bay.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Okay, sorry. Mind blowing.
Okay. There was a little continuity error, I think, but I'm not 100% sure. So help me out here.
Mm-hmm.
And when Worf and Riker and Deanna, they have their stabby reunion, everything for a minute.
Yes.
And then there was this moment, and I want to say Rafi was already on the Shrike. I want to say that.
Yes.
But then they showed the outside of the ship, and you can see clearly there's a
cloaked shuttle or something.
A cloaked shuttle goes across the bow of it. And I went,
who was that?
What is that?
Right.
That might have been Worf and Rafi arriving, is what I think.
But I think they were already on the Shrike.
Were they?
Yeah, because I watched it twice, and I remember noticing the little spatial anomaly going across the bow, and I was like, okay, what is that? Because the only ship I thought they really had cloaking was the Titan at this point. But that was not the Titan.
Right. Clearly not the Titan.
So,
yeah, that left me scratching my head. I was like, oh, and I just kind of blew it off and went, oh, okay, maybe that was.
So y'all did see it.
Oh, I did see it.
Well,
yes.
we obviously didn't see it because it was cloaked, but
you saw what was not there.
That distortion field.
Yeah. Wonder Woman parking her plane.
I'm gonna go back and look one more time, but I think Worf and Rafi were already on the Shrike when that went by. So I was like, I wonder if that was just a red herring, or we saw that was their shuttle, or
a scene that got cut.
The Serena. Does the La Serena have cloaking? I don't think so.
I don't. Yes, it does, because they cloak it when it landed in the they cloaked it when it landed in the vineyard.
Oh, you're absolutely right. That must have been it then. It just must have been okay.
Then we get to the whole point of this episode being called Surrender, because Jack surrenders himself to the bridge to buy time while Data has his battle with Lore in his head. And apparently Jack doesn't just surrender, he's got a bomb. So
a bomb that the bridge cannot.
It looked like that thermal detonator that Princess Leia had.
Yeah. But also, that's another thing. It's like, okay, where did he get this personal force field from that was on the ship that the computer can't identify? Because it calls it out as an unknown device.
He made it on the way up.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that makes
he assembled it.
That makes sense.
Out of parts of his boot.
I know what I can do. He's sitting there with a screwdriver.
MacGyver, eat your heart out.
Yeah, he MacGyvered it out of turbo lift parts.
Yeah.
So the scene with Data surrendering, Lore is taking his memories, takes his pipe. We saw lots and lots of artifacts, including Hollow Tasha.
Yep.
Which is much better implemented now in new special effects, because they're waving it around and doing all sorts of
tossing it in the air.
So Tasha did make an appearance in Picard.
See?
Did any prediction points for that?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
And I thought this whole taking them apart piece by piece and Data losing, I went, no. You knew that was a ploy or a plan of some type, especially when it came to Spot, and he says, he's the best part of me. And Lore picks up Spot, and then Data comes back. It's like all the LEDs go from blue to red, and then they go blue again. Like, wow, that's amazing. I thought that was a little predictable.
Well, I mean, you're not going to have it end with Lore winning.
There's still 2 more episodes. I'm good for anything at this point.
Hey, then the Titan goes down and the credits roll, and that's the end of the series.
Enjoy the story, everybody.
By the way they were wrapping this up, it almost felt
Hey,
like the season was over.
the signatures of the actors start showing up on screen.
Exactly.
At the same time, okay, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I actually kind of liked it. I understood where he was going with it, and I knew that Data was what Lore wasn't. They were yin and yang, and together they were whole, along with all the other
and the rest
minus Law. Yeah, but
Yes,
I knew that they were going to come together, and that was going to work because they kept hammering on that partition. The partition. I can't do the partition. Oh my gosh, but they lifted it, and I always imagined they were going to pull it out of his head.
It's open office or nothing. No partition.
Yeah, but I knew they were going to come together, and I thought it worked okay, except for there's a classic TV thing where two of the same people are supposed to be beside each other, and when they show the back of his hair looked a lot whiter than it was.
and it looked like at the last second someone went, oh darn, we need a stand-in for this shot. We don't get a broom over there quick.
Frakes,
paint it white.
come here. Yeah,
Tom.
broom.
Carl.
Broom.
Come here, Carl.
Can we have a mop?
But on the bridge, Vadic says, well, I have no need for these. Oh, wait, we forgot that she shot Lieutenant Tavine.
Right, which was interesting because that actress has been rather active on Twitter, and she had a backstory for why her character was bald, saying she's part Deltan. And
I thought she kind of liked it. I'm sorry. I kind of liked the character. I wanted to see a little bit more of her.
No,
well, that's what I'm saying is that
how many bald Vulcans have we seen? I mean, come
on. Weren't the ones in the Kolinar ceremony? They were all bald, right? I believe they were.
Oh,
all those priests at the back of when Spock is.
Oh, maybe.
I think they were all bald.
Don't forget to get screened for Kolinar every 5 years.
Yeah. So and don't forget and be very upset about those anti-Kolinar protests.
Spock's brother was balding a little bit, but
that's a different story altogether.
Yeah.
But she takes the remaining hostages and puts them in the ready room, but Seven stays behind.
And apparently they don't have a problem with it. Well, now this to me is the most important thing that is said in that entire episode, as far as a clue that I don't know what to do with.
Okay.
All right. Seven turns around and comes back out. And first of all, why the guards don't shove her in there, who knows? But Vadic says something to the effect of how appropriate it is that you are here to see this.
Yeah.
What is Seven? Seven is a former Borg. And how appropriate that you particularly, she doesn't know any relationships to anybody else. It's like that you are a Borg. So to me, that indicates this has something to do with the Borg.
Jack's condition.
Jack's condition or something.
Well, think of it this way. Picard, Borg, Jack's condition. It's
Rheumatic syndrome.
Yeah, but that's not. It wasn't it. They said it wasn't necessarily.
Well, we don't know that yet because when in Picard's biological body, they took out some of the frontal lobe that was infected with aromatic syndrome. It's like, we're just going to carve out the bad.
Yeah, but I'm saying I don't think it is aromatic syndrome. I think I read it. You've probably seen it, Clinton. I don't know about you, Chuck, but there was a fan theory floating around about the whole thing, and they were saying the Borg had placed this in something in Picard's mind, or is a Borg implant? That's how that worked. Anyway, it had to do with the Borg implanting something into Picard. Picard's got something that they need from that'll help. I don't know. Shoot, I can't remember the whole.
Borg Queen is our friend now.
Yeah.
What I think is, here's my wild theory that I just came up with, and therefore TM. That if it involves the Borg, somehow the changelings are working with species 8472, and that's who that mysterious figure is. Because
fluidic space. He looked rather fluid, didn't he?
Yes. So see, that's my theory that I just.
And maybe the liquid people can live in fluidic space. I don't know. I'm making this up as I go. How did you feel when Lord died?
Yes.
Did you cheer? Or was it a bit emotional because he's such a character you love to hate?
Well, I felt like I was happy to see them come together because that makes Data more of a person.
Right, because I felt like
I wasn't upset about it.
what they were doing slowly over that episode, and I think that's another thing that probably could have taken more time in the process of how they were doing that, as opposed to I'm going to search out search parties for Jack now that we've been on the ship for 2 days. Is this idea that slowly, as Data is giving things to Lore, you see his expression start to waffle a bit. Lore starts to kind of look at the things a bit differently. He does not completely, but he's
Yeah,
starting
he
to
even has like a little convulsion when he's holding Spot or something. What's happening
Yeah.
to me?
Right. So I felt it was coming, and I never really was a big fan of Lore to begin with, so I didn't mind. But I felt like, well, this is kind of what Sung had wanted all along, right? Was to use these things that he's learned to create one thing. And so what you end up with is, its name is Data, but it can use contractions like Lore could do, and is a bit more flippant and so forth. And so it's really not just Data. It's Data and Lore together. So you didn't, I felt like
It's Data Lore.
Yeah, you didn't
Hey,
end
we
up
already
really
had that
losing
episode.
Yeah.
Lore. You just kind of like got incorporated into what you
Mhm.
now have,
And the rest.
except for Law. But that's it.
But no, I thought it was a good thing. I thought I was happy about it.
And how many of us knew that there was a open from the center escape hatch at the front of the bridge?
You can airlock the bridge. That was a new one on me, but we could have used that many times in previous episodes.
I don't know whether that's in any of the technical manuals as to that's an escape route.
It actually was the front of the ship.
It took so long for all of that to unfold. I thought that sequence could have gone much, much quicker in the time that Jack turns on the force field. Then they're still talking. Or he says, "Oh, that's my cue." Wait. Turns on the force field. There's some more chitter chatter back and forth. And then he says, blow the hatch. It was like Vadic could have gotten off the bridge and down to engineering by the time they pulled that whole thing off. I thought it was just way too protracted.
And Vadic didn't make any attempt to grab onto anything or
fire at the force field or nothing.
Just swore and went out into space.
And evidently froze. It happened to just barely miss the Shrike's deflector dish and shatter into a million pieces. Then they blow up the Shrike. But are you sure she's gone?
Another point. Okay, so you have an enemy ship. You know that they've taken Picard's body. There's, you don't know what's going on with Jack. You have Riker's, that Riker and his crew have come back on the shuttle. So you know that they're not over there at least. Do you not want to find out if there's anything else over there you need, or are you just going to blow it up right now?
But there were still crew over there, so it's still potentially dangerous.
I suppose.
I think they said most of the crew was over on the Titan with Vadic.
Right, because the bird people had gone with.
Well, they were still chattering back and forth when Troy.
Well, that's true because they had to leave the Shrike.
Right. The alarms went off. They say, "Hey, we know they're there," and they went.
But still, it seemed like without even consulting with Riker or Worf or anybody, just like, nope, we're just going to blow it up.
Needed to yell fire really loud. She just wanted to get that out of her system.
Well, she had her moment. She had get off my bridge. She had her moment there. So,
I was also surprised that they actually had an armament of some photon torpedoes, because didn't they shoot everything, and they haven't really been in contact. Remember, Riker said, "Fire everything."
He says, "Fire!" Yeah, and then Seven says, "Fire everything you got." What are they gonna do? Throw a soup can at him?
Yeah. Bonk.
Well, I've got
harsh language.
This much lamented and poorly received Chateau Picard. Apparently, Geordi doesn't like it either.
That was a great exchange between Geordi and Picard to verify he was Picard. 6 years ago, you were at my party, and what did you give me? He's like, Chateau Picard. And you said it was too dry because you had pedestrian tastes.
Yep, that's
Yep,
definitely
that's
John.
Picard. I loved that. Was a great line
What's
for the
funny?
show.
What's funny is he's got nothing but blowback from his wine. Even
Right.
Worf thought it was mead.
Rancid meat, if I remember right.
Yeah,
It was rather tart. Yes.
yeah, that's right.
Okay,
So I wonder how well the family is done over the years. They have a chateau and so forth, but how if this is a
how's
bad-
sales going?
He's a
Then-
famous captain. We better just buy it out of loyalty.
So the changelings are, at least in this local vicinity, out of our hair. The band is back together. Deanna swoons because she feels an all-consuming darkness.
Yes, she does some good
Mm.
swooning there. Definitely classic Deanna Troy swoon in that case.
Yeah.
And then we have a very long sit around and how glad everybody is to have the band back together.
Well, we did have before that. We did have Data, crack his neck and go, "I've experienced death, but this is new. Like getting old."
Yeah.
he's
And using
he's,
contractions.
rather intrigued with age.
Yeah, I like that interaction with him. And speaking of him and
Yeah, when
and
talking to Jordy
LeVar
about
at
their
the end.
friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a contraction. No, I didn't.
Actually, I'll say that kind of paid off that whole scene where they were Data was coming to fruition, coming back to self, and you get to see Geordi and Data together, and they're sharing their admiration for one another and being friends again. I thought it was really cool.
You're right, though, Clinton. The table scene was, it's good to be here. Yes, it's good to be here.
Yes.
We had a couple of comical lines again from Worf. I thought about sending you the beheaded. I thought the heads of all my enemies.
Too passive aggressive.
Oh, hey, what was funny was, did either of you watch the Ready Room yet?
Not yet, because
No.
I watched that
Oh.
with Bonnie when she
Oh.
watches Picard tomorrow.
Well, spoiler alert. No, I'm just kidding. So he
That's
said,
fine.
so Wesley said, or Will said that he was watching the show, and when they all sat at that table, he says, "Wow, when's the last time they've all sat around together at that table?" And then right one beat. That's exactly what Riker says when they sat down. Well, when's the last time we sat at this table together?
But when's the last time we sat around the table together? I don't know. What was the last con we were at? I don't know. It's the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah, but on the cruise, I think it was.
Right.
Yeah, and then we finally cut to the end scene with Deanna trying to help Jack, saying,
Go
"We're going to
through
go
the
through this
red
door together." He
door.
says, "I'm afraid I can't go through the door." He says, "You're not alone. We'll go through it." And they walk up to the
Yeah.
door, and
Cut.
then end. And we probably won't see more of that for another 2 episodes.
Well,
wait, there's only
it
2
can't go much
episodes
longer than
left.
that. There's like 2 episodes.
No,
If they don't answer it after episode 10, forget it. It's not happening.
and 3 episodes from now. No.
Yeah.
And speaking of episodes, that is about the end of this episode, or at least the wrap-ups. We will be back with episodes 9 and 10 in a couple of weeks.
Mhm.
Yes.
What are we doing after that? Taking a break, I hope?
Sleeping.
Sleeping. Yes.
Till June, till something new comes out, or we're going to go back to watch something else?
Well, we may be back to Enterprise.
Yeah.
Ah! I'm jumping out the bridge here,
Yeah,
Locke.
not that.
No,
Hey,
it's
there
just-
was, by the way, I did see a fan theory where they thought that the creature that Vadic we've been talking to
Yes.
was Gul Dukat.
What? Oh, maybe it's a
I-
wraith.
Because you got the rings around the eyes with Jack and everything, and I was like, okay, I'm not really.
That could
seeing
be a
that one.
paw wraith.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing was what I was trying to get across earlier was Picard was assimilated. There's genetic material in him from being in the Borg. It's passed on to Jack, and so Jack's got all this other stuff going on. I'm not sure how
You
that
think
plays
he's got
into
some
it.
nanobots in him?
Maybe, I don't know, or something. Yeah.
So the question is, if you
Son of a
if you
boy.
have those, let's assume that that's completely true. What are you doing with that? Right? So the kind of the end game is, to what end are you
Yeah.
doing this?
I don't know.
I'm
Vadic
gonna
died,
use
so we don't
this.
know.
I'm going to use that as a new exclamation. Son of a Borg.
Yeah. Well, at the end, the Titan just heads off, and the music sounds nice and comforting, and as they fly off, I'm thinking, don't they have to hurry up and get to Frontier Day? Somebody's
Yeah,
gonna
Yes,
make
you
this
do.
team-
It's only hours away.
Yeah, yeah. That's right.
but it's got to be at least 2 episodes away at this point. So
Right.
expect
Oh.
those to be long. Expect those to be football minutes. Those couple of hours.
And
All right.
and they're going to cut the episode right when Deanna goes to reach that doorknob. As soon as she touches it,
Yep.
I was like, "Dang it! I knew it was going to happen." Oh well.
All righty. We have Warp Speed Roundtable. We're an hour and a half on this one, boys.
What are we gonna rate these? What scale we got for this? We've got some kind of
Force fields,
Force fields. Okay, force fields.
unidentified force field.
Thermal detonators.
So going backwards, I believe that means you start us off, Craig.
There were a lot of holes in it, just like we all kind of joked about, but I think I still liked it, especially the, as I mentioned, the data lore thing coming together. So I'm going to give this one an 8.
Okay, all right. And what about you, Chuck?
I'm going with a 7.5 again. I liked it. Like you said, data lore, data Geordie. There were some war moments. There were some, there were some
Head scratchers.
Serious head scratchers on this one. Going, wait, what? Why? What? So I wish a few of the writers would have taken one more pass at the revised script for those kinds of things. But 7.5.
Okay, and I'm going to go a bit lower. I'm going to go to a 7 on it because I felt like some parts of it were super rushed and some parts of it dragged out, and I didn't understand what the stuff that was being dragged out, why it was there, and not allow the stuff that should have been given more time wasn't given the more time. So I thought it was very unevenly paced
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately unsatisfying because you seem to linger on things that don't need to be lingered on. We get the idea that already
I
that
see that.
Patek is evil. We get it. Okay, we've gotten it like from episode 1 or
She's
2. Actually.
evil. She's crazy. She's also under a lot of pressure by Squiggly Man.
Exactly. All right. Those are our ratings on it. If you have something else in mind for rating, you can leave us a note over on our Facebook page, facebook.com. The topic is Trek. But
Or
now,
Twitter.
or Twitter. You can let us know there as well.
Yeah.
Do we have any comment here? I see something over on the side, but it's too small on my screen. It's just
Listener Diane says, Borg Janeway biological weapon parallel. So is she saying, see, they are repeating history, maybe?
Well, they keep mentioning Janeway. They've mentioned Janeway several times. So this could be something that Janeway recognizes when we get to that point and is in. So that could be an appearance from Kate Mulgrew, because goodness knows how many times they've said, Janeway, we should see Janeway, Admiral Janeway. Okay, we'll see.
I'll be serving coffee at Frontier Days.
None of that Ractigino. All right. Let's do our Warp Speed Roundtable rather quickly, hence the name Warp Speed Roundtable. And this question is, in light of some of the things that have been happening in this episode, very appropriate. Craig, I believe, was the one that came up with this one. What precautions should Starfleet make to keep from repeating stupid mistakes?
I'll tell you real quick what the reason I came up with this question. I was just watching Star Trek Into Darkness, and Khan sets the coordinates to Starfleet Academy, literally Starfleet Academy. I was like, you think they'd kind of put a safety net in the system for that, where you can't just fly to ground zero?
Right. If it's okay, not, and the computer's going, not orbit the planet. No. Just go straight to Starfleet Academy. Yeah.
The planet. Yeah, the planet, not orbit around it.
Land there.
Crash there.
Well, and
Which is what he did.
And after this last episode of Picard, probably not putting the airlock right on the bridge, right?
Well, I get the feeling it was supposed to be an escape hatch, which would have come in handy in the Kelvinverse, because as you recall, they're sliding in beyond Star Trek Beyond. They're sliding down the bridge and they're using phasers to try to blow out the front window to go out. If there'd been one of those, they could have just opened it up and gone outside.
All right, roll up the windows, kids. We're in Klingon territory.
I definitely feel like they need to find out whatever it is that makes it super easy to just sit in the captain's chair and be able to do everything. Like take some of the labels off the buttons or something, you know, or mislabel them.
Biometrics, something.
Yeah. Scan the butt. Oh,
Yeah.
whose butt is this? Oh, it's Pike's. Okay. Give him access to the ship.
This chair is cozy. I'm taking it with me. Yes. So that I just feel like it's so easy to walk onto that bridge and be able to do
Security is
everything.
terrible.
And they even make a point in that episode. Now, if I recall, well, yeah, we actually see it in use in the animated series. That bubble up at the top is supposed to be a security device as well. And, she's just using it as like kind of a mirror while she's lighting a cigarette. So it's like, yeah, can we just like make some of that stuff work? I don't know.
All right. What about you, Chuck?
Seatbelts, of course. What? We haven't had them since TOS. Like what? Every time we get fired on, people fall out of their chairs. This is a safety problem.
The Kelvinverse had them.
They did.
That's true. But we're not there, are we?
Wait. The motion picture. Yeah, Kirk.
I mean, you can clamp your legs in on the captain's chair, but
it might pull your hips out, but
right. You're still going to get whiplash.
I hope those inertia dampeners work. I think they could put some safety guardrails on the holodeck a little bit more.
Yeah.
The safety protocols.
Yeah. Some if-then statements. If a holodeck is attempting to kill people on holodeck, end program.
2 officers are required to disable the holodeck.
It's one thing if you turn the safety protocols off while you're surfing per se, but not when there's weapons available.
Yeah. Maybe also don't have it be so easy to just flip that switch like Picard does. It's like off, on, off, on.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe Data has piece of Moriarty too. Wouldn't that be fun?
To be or not to be. Indeed.
He had a manifest. Maybe he took a few souvenirs with him.
Maybe he's got, Kirk's bones and Archer's body. And
wait, did Kirk or Bones? Which one was it?
Yeah,
Kirk's bones.
That's what I said. Third base. Anyway, so those are our answers about what precautions should Starfleet make to keep from repeating stupid mistakes.
Yeah.
Come on, Gary. I know you've got something for us.
There's going to be a new series coming out, Star Trek OSHA.
Yeah. So think about that one, and you can leave us a comment over on our Facebook page or tweet us at The Topic is Trek over on Twitter, and we will include those in our next episode. All right, but right now it's time to refill the dilithium chamber and to try to warp on out of here, even though we've walked into the, engineering and said, I don't know what dilithium is anymore, but call back to early in the episode. All right. You can find me, Clinton, at Comedy Forecast, all one word with the number 4.com, working on right now on the big story for this year. And that hopefully will be out in May. No promises, but it should be out at the beginning of May. And who speaks for you guys?
Go ahead, Chuck.
Hey, you can find us by searching for Technorama Podcast anywhere on the internet. Technorama Podcast, where Craig and I do a geek show, news, reviews, all kinds of fun stuff. Every Sunday night at, what are we at? 8 p.m. Eastern?
8:30.
8:30. We backed it up an hour or so. We look forward to talking to you there. Been doing that for coming up on 18 years.
Yeah, if Chuck keeps talking, it's going to be like 2:30 in the afternoon. Just keep backing it up.
Me.
All right. Well, it's time to hit the theme, boys.
I've never seen this podcast thing before. What is this? Let's try this button.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
If you like the show, please be sure to tell a friend about it and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear from you. Follow us on Twitter at The Topic is Trek. Visit our Facebook page or visit thetopicistrek.com. Until next time, on behalf of Chuck, Craig, and myself, I'm Clinton, thanking you for listening. And as we always say here on The Topic is Trek, don't put on the red
shirt. End recording, hailing frequencies closed.
So the red shirts are evil.
Done.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
I
thank
can
you
breathe.
for hanging in there. We have a one viewer still with us. I don't know if listener Diane popped in and out, or whether she's the person that's still there. We can't get that info. But regardless, thank you.
What
And-
that person said.
I want to stay.
All right, and we will see you next time in 2 weeks. Presumably, we'll make sure that that's indeed the case when we talk about the last 2 episodes of Picard, and then it's all done. It's all done.